Minnesota Libertarian Party. Ooh, wow, that was a mistake. Okay, let me start over. Welcome to another episode of Minnesota Liberty Podcast, sponsored by the Libertarian Party of Minnesota. I have with me this evening Charlie Kuklins. I always can never remember which way it is. Anyways,
everybody's the same. That's fine.
Okay. And I am your host, Rebecca Whiting. We are both part of the Libertarian Party here in Minnesota. And Charlie just got done yesterday, finished running a race. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I have some questions, but I kind of just want to open this up with, how now that it's over, right? How do you feel?
Well, you're asking me at an interesting time, because today it's felt like, how do I put this? Like an emotional dump. Like I woke up this morning and I was just like, man, I'm really tired. I've had like this somewhat of a headache all day, but it's like, I don't know if it was just like finally like things are over and settled and I don't have to stress about all the things anymore.
Right.
But it's weird that like, he called me up today and I'm like, yeah, I'm going through like a whole lot of stuff. And, but it's been like, it's been good. And I've learned a ton of stuff, about running the race in my district. But yeah, today's been an emotional kind of like, what am I going to do with my time? I'm sure I'll fill it with something else. I always do.
We have more politics. There's always good for. There's always, that's never ending.
Maybe I'll wait until after Christmas.
It's probably a good idea.
But yeah, it's like I felt good with the race that we ran. It was a special election. We had limited time to do things. I think we spent our money efficiently. Obviously Pat kept me on track and kicked my ass when I was wanting to pull away and like complain and procrastinate and and all that stuff. But no, she was great. She she was always checking in with me and keeping me on task. So I really appreciate her for that, and she did awesome. We had so many people help out. Kara was a big help from an advisory standpoint. Chip pitched in. Nate was kind of my volunteer coordinator. So, we had a bunch of people that jumped in, and everything from the petitioning period all the way up until, the last minutes of the race, we had people volunteering. So, huge shout out to everybody that came out and helped. Greatly appreciate it. I kind of wanted, like, I wasn't too happy with the numbers, but
yeah, but you live.
I looked at it and I was like, well, what the heck?
Deep blue state.
What's that?
You live in a deep blue neighborhood.
Oh, very, very deep. Yeah, but it was interesting to see, like, when, I think early on when I was kind of deciding whether I wanted to run or not, Kara had asked me, like, what's a win to you? And a win to me was 15 to 20 good people that are going to be in my district and hopefully start up an affiliate. So that was the goal, is to basically gather data through this race, to be able to at least identify people that are going to be active, and start looking at how we affect politics at a local level. So really it was the Senate district that I was looking to kind of build up as an affiliate. I think I talked about this at the convention last year, just how I wanted to kind of form a Senate district, localized affiliate, and then all the things that we can progress from there. And I think we might have achieved half the goal. So I was like, I've identified probably, 10 people, that we might be able to get started with at the start of the year.
Well, 10 people is a good start.
Yeah. I don't know how active they're going to be. I've talked to people about this the whole time. So some people are enthusiastic about it. Some people are like, yeah, I'll be interested. Who knows how that goes. So as long as we get started the right way and start to build people up, plus we have a whole other, house district in 52A that we can start marketing to. So we only did everything in 52B in my district. So kind of want the whole Senate district to be able to build up, and then hopefully we get consistently running 2 candidates and a state senator, which would be awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're a political party.
Yep.
This is what we do.
That's exactly it.
I do remember, like, when I ran for school board last year, that the day afterwards, it was just like, oh, I'm just, the conclusion, like having that conclusion and being able to just be like, well, it's finished.
Yeah.
Was just huge,
It didn't help that I had like a Manhattan and a couple of beers last night either. So,
well, you probably deserved it.
So it was, it's been great. I was happy to see a bunch of people come out, and hopefully we'll just keep advancing liberty in the area going forward. And then, hopefully that catches on and we can kind of clone things differently and test things out and test messaging. And, every area of the state is different, right? So everywhere's going to have different messaging. It's a matter of tailoring it to your district, how you can operate. And I think that was one of the things that I saw, at least from where we operate at the state party, is, it's one message coming out from the state, but that might not hit locally. So we want to hit locally too, with some sort of different message, right? So where we can still kind of garner support. So that's kind of what is in my mind, but we'll see how it works.
So, I mean, you live in the neighborhood that you were seeking, election in.
Yep.
How did your neighbors react to what you were doing?
Well, so it's funny. My neighbors, they're like, again, the whole district is pretty liberal, and probably most of my neighbors are too. But even during the summer, before I even ran, before I even knew that the race was coming up, I mean, it was a special election, I was inviting people over anyway, having conversations with them about, who I am, because I'm fairly new to the neighborhood. It's been 2 years since I bought the house, but I was still introducing myself, walking my dog around the neighborhood, talking to people, and everybody knows I'm a libertarian. They already knew it, right? We've already had discussions about everything under the sun. So when I was walking around and gathering signatures and talking to them about what I was doing, it wasn't really a surprise to them,
right?
So and that's really what I want. Like, I want people to know what I do. Like, I want people to know about me and what I'm passionate about. So if they have questions, they can come ask, right? It's not an adversarial thing. It's, you start to build up rapport with your neighbors and create that relationship to where we can have a conversation, and not from like a combative standpoint. Like, my neighbors next door to me are like, they're really cool people, very liberal. We have conversations all the time, and they get to understand my perspective. I get to understand their perspective. Doesn't mean we're changing minds, but we can have a civil conversation and just know that they can come over and sit by the fire and have a beer, and we can talk about things. So
right.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that is really missing. And maybe it's not just politics, maybe it's just the culture in general, is we've lost the ability to be able to have a civil, intelligent conversation,
right,
with the people around us without being emotionally charged by the end of it.
Yep. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had people slam the door in my face and tell me to F off. So, I've been called a fascist, which is interesting. I tried to challenge them. I'm like, I don't think you know what that word means. because kind of the exact opposite of libertarianism. But and it was funny because then they said, "Oh, sorry, I should have used the word dictatorship," and I was like, "It's still you're kind of way off on this one." Oh, you can
Right.
keep throwing all the words out, all the buzzwords you want. None of them are sticking because you just don't understand. So,
but you're Teflon. Everything's just
yeah. But I was like, yeah, maybe read up on libertarianism and then get back to me on
right.
whatever buzzword you want to throw at me then. Okay. So it was.
Yeah,
fun.
we're a lot of things, but
Yeah, fascist
controlling, dictator, authoritarian, fascist. I mean, those are all not. Those don't. It's just incompatible.
Yeah, exactly. It was fascinating, to say the least. So.
Yeah. So what kind of things did people when they were open to talking, what kind of things did they want to talk about? What kind of questions did they have?
Yeah.
How did you
So a surprising amount of people in my district. It's funny because Pat made the comment last night. She's like, I'm convinced that like 75% of Minnesota's teachers union lives in your district. I'm like, it's probably not wrong. But yeah, there were a lot of people that were really actually happy with what the legislature passed, which is kind of weird. I mean, I'm coming at it from a different perspective, right? But having the conversation, and it was the school lunches they were happy about, even though they're probably not looking at the economics now. I think with the budget surplus that we're predicted to have, and then all of the reports coming in about the school lunches coming in way over budget than what was predicted. I don't know how that's going to reflect in votes going forward, but
right.
I think they like the buzzwords and they don't care about the economics of the issue.
But
So,
it's for the kids. So
right.
how can it be bad?
As long as it's for the kids, that's fair. You've got to do everything for the kids. So I homeschool my child, but that's beside the point. Yeah, so do you. You homeschool your children.
Except the future. We don't need to worry about the future, but everything else.
Might want to have to teach them actual economics. That'll be great. So yeah, but on the other side, I got a lot of thank you for running comments. So there's a lot of people that were, from my perspective. Sorry, my dog's barking at.
Oh,
I think we've had coyotes lately. I heard them howling like the other night, but what was I saying? I think from my perspective, there were a lot of people that are kind of upset with the way politics are going. Mm-hmm. We actually had a decent turnout in the votes. It was like a 22% turnout. And typically in a special election, it's like 10%. But, polarization, we didn't get the votes from a libertarian side, but don't know how to break that just yet. We got to be a little more, have a little more name recognition going forward. So,
but ideologically, if people are just adamant, like you said, that they're happy with the school legislation, like at some point, I mean, how do you, if somebody's like, no, but I love this. I love living underneath like all this regulation, and I love living underneath all these taxes. How do you what becomes the tactic?
That's a good question. I think there's got to be a pivot somewhere. I mean, we've seen a drastic, well, not drastic, but a surprising increase in homeschooling, mm-hmm. right?
More Bemidji, where I'm at, we lost 10% of public students in the last couple of years to homeschooling.
Right. And so when you look at that and you go, okay, well, now that our enrollment is dropping, right? Enrollment in public schools is dropping. So taxes are not going to go away anytime soon, right? they're going to continue to increase the price or the cost per child that is in public schools. So I'm not sure how that's going to shake out. And they'll probably say, "Oh, that's perfect. We're done now." And then everybody's stuck paying, $27,000 per child that's in public school, and there's no kids in school.
In Bemidji, it's $38,000
$38,000
per student per year.
Wow,
that's a lot of money.
Insane.
And they're millions of dollars over budget.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at some point you're going to go like, the kids aren't getting any benefit from going to school, right? Because I don't know how it's going to shake out, but there's going to be a reckoning at some point. People are going to be pissed off paying too much for not enough benefit, but then we'll have a bunch of retirees that don't even have kids in school anyway, and they're going to keep talking about we need to do this for the kids. So I don't know. I'm just trying to teach my child how to be productive and learn what she needs to learn to be successful in life.
Right.
Not a good worker. I don't need her to be a good employee for all of the companies, but
yeah, what we need is trailblazers, and we
right.
lack in general in our state, maybe as a nation as a whole, is just trailblazers. We have a whole bunch of people that are perfectly satisfied with the status quo. They're comfortable. They've never been pulled outside of their comfort zone. They've never been forced to have to make hard decisions.
Right.
Although I do kind of feel like that's changing. Like I've been hearing more and more with the inflation and, meeting basic necessities, that kind of stuff, that people are struggling more now than they have in the past.
Right.
And I kind of look at, I'm just observing, like, it's Christmas season, right? And so the things that are on the shelves are not moving.
Right.
I'm like, people, I feel like there would be some sort of reflection in the stores, the sales, that kind of thing, that, there's less money. And I bet at the end of the season, when they go back and, pull all the numbers, that there will be less money spent this season as compared to other Christmases in the past.
Yeah.
With making up for inflation.
Right. I was trying to figure out what were the returns on Black Friday? I'm not sure I've seen an assessment yet from anything. I know there's a bunch of winners and losers, and I thought I saw people walking around saying the Best Buy TVs that they brought in as inventory for Black Friday didn't all sell. The deals weren't that great. My son works retail at the Mall of America, so he said, they did pretty well from a clothing standpoint, but there's other stores throughout the company that didn't. So I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag right now. But then you look at all the economic factors that are, inflation, the rate of inflation is declining, but that doesn't mean inflation is dropping.
No.
Right. So
3% from yesterday, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
2 years ago.
The rate has slowed. But even then, all the things that we used to look at as economic factors that we could rely on. Mm-hmm. Now you've got to really look into the nuance of them. It's the unemployment numbers, and unemployment's under 4%, but the workforce number has dropped, right? So how many people are actually participating in the workforce?
So what's happened up here that I've noticed is that like COVID, we had that time period after COVID where nobody could find enough help, right? And the stores were just begging. Like, there were retail stores here offering sign-on bonuses to try and get people to work. I'm like, I'd never seen that before. That was new. But now nobody's hiring. You can't,
No.
and it's not that they're working, that they have enough. Like they've just settled with less and they've cut off hiring.
Yeah. Well, when they couldn't, you look at it and you go, okay, when you can't find employees for a time period, you've got to try to work on a different process or become more efficient with the employees that you have to be able to maintain a steady revenue. And now when they've created these processes or become more efficient with less people, they don't need to hire.
Right.
So I don't know. And like you said, I think we need the younger generation to be more innovative, to be able to take risks and kind of push our economy forward instead of just falling in line and saying, oh, well, we want more from the businesses, which is how I think it's going right now. And instead of like, hey, we're going to push business forward from an economic standpoint. So I've got so much stuff going on in my head throughout these past couple months. I'm just like, this is crazy. But yeah, I don't know where we're going to end up. My dog is scratching at the door. So hold on one second.
Okay.
He's a big 11-month-old Great Pyrenees. So.
Yep.
Hold on. You want to come in? You coming in? Come on. You want to come say hi? Come here. He knocks on the door and then he's like, oh, I don't want to come in. Come here.
We have Great Pyrenees at our house too. They don't realize that they're a little on the big side to be lap dogs.
Yep. Oh, he'll jump up in your lap in a heartbeat. He's a good boy.
So if you could do something different, or you could go back and change something what you did, like what's some advice that you would give somebody else that's considering running a campaign?
Yeah. Gosh, it's tough to do an after action right now. I think one of the things that we incorporated, which I wasn't, too familiar with, was the texting process. What are the rules around texting, people that you don't have a relationship with? Mm-hmm. And then the anti-spam laws, trying to get around that. And then one thing that we lacked on was social media. Like we didn't really have a big social media presence. So I think that kind of hurt us a little bit too, at least with the younger generation. But we sent out like 12,000 texts in the last 2 weeks of the campaign. So we did start off with a survey, kind of a walking survey, which was beneficial to get the word out. And it wasn't necessarily a promotion thing. It was just kind of gathering data of how people felt about the last legislative session, or even if they knew about the special election coming up. And what I found is that like 60% of the people that we talked to had no idea that there even was a special election in our district. So it's getting the word out. But even then, like setting up the technology early on, get a CRM going, get a website up and running, start looking at being able to advertise on social media. So get your Facebook page up and running, Instagram, TikTok if you have to. But even then, you've got to go through the process of getting verified as a political account to run ads.
That's not a simple thing.
No. And I think because Facebook sent me a code in the mail to be able to authorize my account for ads. And I'm not sure. It was probably my fault that I didn't see it in time and then register my account with the code in time. So that's a failure on my part, but sometimes you learn.
So speaking of post office, I'm going to get your, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but maybe there's, whoever's watching doesn't know. It's a different situation. And I don't know, I haven't, because we live here and this is where it's happening. I don't know if it's on the news or not, but
you mentioned it earlier, and I haven't heard of it. So
yeah,
if you want to give a
yeah, the situation is that Amazon. I live in rural Minnesota, right? So we have Bemidji is pretty much the major town on this half of the northern half of the state, and our Amazon changed their contract from shipping with UPS to USPS. So they're, Amazon is the 2-day shipping, you pay for Prime, you click and they send it to you in 2 days. That was already kind of not happening up here. You just don't get things in 2 days. I mean, there's benefits to living in rural Minnesota, but getting things through the mail quickly is not one of them. So then they changed the contract from UPS to USPS. And so now the United States postal system is supposed to be shipping everything for Amazon. I'm not sure if I can't imagine. I don't know if it's just our region or if it's the entire state or nationally. I don't know. But I know that for here, it's the situation now.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me. I know, in the past, Amazon has run independent couriers, right?
We don't have that up here.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking is what's driving it, right? And is it not cost effective to have an independent courier in a rural setting, right? Because I have Amazon drivers all over our neighborhood.
But how close do you live to a warehouse?
About 3 miles.
Okay. Maybe that's an advantage.
Yeah. So that's the thing, and yeah, it's interesting to see like the distribution of packages, especially up in the rural areas, is probably they're struggling to get packages there.
Yeah. Well, and being able to shipping through the post office brings on a whole new set of issues, because especially when you live in a rural part of the country, there's a lot of things that you just don't have access to in town, if you even live close to a town, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people just don't live near a town. And so they online shipping is huge, online shopping. I mean, like all this, a lot of stuff has gravitated from going to the store locally and picking things up directly to just, getting on your phone and ordering it and having it sent to you. So the problem is that now we have all of that online shopping being funneled through the post office.
Yeah.
And our mail carrier shows up in a Ford Taurus. Do you know how much stuff you can fit in a Ford Taurus? It's not a lot. You can't fit. I mean, like whatever your route's worth of Amazon packages are, you just can't fit that.
Right. And even then you could have I think you've got a fairly long driveway, right? It's not like
I do. And so that's another complication. Our mailbox is a mile away from our house.
Yeah.
And to get to our house, you actually have to drive through the neighbor's property because we have an easement with them. And then you drive through the neighbor's property to get to our property. So you can't see anything about our house from the road. And so then they also have this silly rule that they can't back down your driveway. they have to like turn around and be able to, well, anyways, so we were just getting like, those orange sheets, orange sheet after orange sheet. And I
Right.
don't check the mailbox very often because it's a mile down the road. And by the way, not in the direction of town either. So
Right.
like, it's just, I got used to not checking it very often. But now to be able to get anything shipped to us, we have to get in our car, drive 20 miles to town, and pick it up at the post office.
Right.
And
So
it's not just us, it's everybody.
I can imagine that puts, a lot of strain on the postal delivery service if
Mhm.
we're trying to. I mean, we're already understaffed at postal carriers anyway.
Yep.
Um, and then, I mean, even here in Egan, we've had issues with getting the mail, and it's typically during the winter. But I can imagine that just having enough staff to be able to handle that, and then the added pressure of Amazon deliveries being prioritized. I mean, hopefully, how do I put this? Hopefully, the U.S. postal system is getting a benefit from Amazon.
I mean, they probably are because it's government.
Yeah,
But the fact is that they switched from a private company
for sure.
to a government entity that,
Yep.
I mean, shocker, it's not working.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what the result should be. Um, it's an interesting scenario. I'd have to really dig into the story to look at the specifics.
Yeah, I'm guessing, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, that I'm guessing, the post office system has been on the verge of bankruptcy for a
Yeah.
really long time. Like they simply have not been doing well, and they've been propped up because, I mean, it's government, it's
Yep.
so they take on a big contract. Amazon, I mean, that's a huge contract. That would be, if your business was on life support and your business was delivering stuff and you needed extra revenue coming in, you take on a massive contract like this.
Right.
The problem is they don't have the infrastructure to be able to handle the expectations of being able to take on that massive contract. So Amazon has in fact turned to the government program that's in place and is trying to work
Yeah.
within the confines of
And
it.
that's the
And
thing. My guess is it's probably not, uh, a benefit to have an independent driver up there delivering the message, delivering the packages.
you'd have to have a lot of them because our post office goes all the way, it services all the way up to International Falls and War Road, which is 2
Oh
hours away.
wow.
So, I
Okay.
mean, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is geographically, there's not a lot of people, but there's a lot of territory.
Right.
So some of these routes, I know that the FedEx, another private company, right? But the FedEx can just, they have their big trucks. They can just take, if something changes, they can shift and, change
Yep.
with it. But they're the FedEx drivers and the UPS drivers. Some of those routes go all the way up to the Canadian border, and that's almost 2 hours from here.
See, at least UPS is a private company or public
Yeah.
company, but anyway, they're a corporation. But it's interesting because I'm not sure how the federal postal service can be co-opted by a private, you know, a corporation to uh, facilitate their supply chain.
Right.
Um, it's just kind of an interesting scenario.
Yeah. So what the result has been is that, when you have a system like the post office that's fragile
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you overburden it, and now nothing's being delivered on time. So,
Yeah. People aren't getting their mail either. So
the bills,
crazy.
I mean, during Christmas, and anyways, it's an interesting situation up here. We've had protests on the street. I drove by protesters today.
Really?
Yeah. 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 And I think one of the guys said his sign said the post office is for people or something, not for Amazon, something like that. The post office is for something. It was something like that. Like
Interesting.
So, anyways, different.
All right.
Different
Yeah,
thing.
it's an interesting topic to look into. I'm not sure how you know, it affects all of Minnesota, but it definitely affects you guys up there. So
Yeah. Well, don't forget us about us rock stars.
it's not what I meant.
Yeah. I just got to throw that out whenever I have the chance.
There's people up here too, Don.
We live, Northerners are people too.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I was just gonna say, like, I mean, we've had some interesting topics come up through, you know, through the candidacy and the campaign and all that stuff. I think one of the interesting ones that I hadn't heard of yet, but I had multiple questions on it was a proposal for like end of life care.
mm-hmm.
So basically, people that are facing a terminal illness and within 6 months of their prognosis, um, being able to elect for like physician assisted suicide. And so, you know, I thought about this and I'm like, man, I look back and I'm like, it's, to me, it's really like death with dignity, right? Being able to decide when, when and where you want to pass away. I mean, you're facing a terminal illness. And then the opposition to it is essentially, well, how are we going to regulate the medication? And, you know, if that medication gets out, then, you know, we've got, I don't know what the fear is. If it's like people are just going to start dropping dead because somebody slipped their medication. I don't know. But from my perspective, I think I looked at the bill and I'm like, you know, I think it's worthwhile to take a look at. I think there's a lot of people that will be able to see or remember their loved ones in the manner that they want to remember them.
Right.
Instead of like the last few months just kind of waiting away. And that, you know, it happened to like my father in 2009, you know, battling cancer. And you just see like he was a big, strong guy, and at the end, just very frail and very fragile, and it was tough to see. But you know, I don't know what his choice would have been,
right,
if he had the opportunity. So, but I would have respected it either way. I probably would have been sad, but you know, that's the inevitability of life.
Right. My mother-in-law went through the same, terminal cancer in 2017. And, for her, up until the very end, she really believed that there was a chance that she was, at the very least, going to be able to prolong her life longer than she did.
Right.
If not, possibly even recover. And I mean, you're a former medic. I'm a former medic. I
me too.
read their medical stuff, right? And I was just like, there's no recovering from this. I mean, like realistically, especially when you work in the medical field, you really have to come to terms with that. Sometimes even when you do everything right, there's just nothing that you can do to fight back death. And so we've done a podcast on death with dignity legislation before.
Oh,
yeah. And I think one of the concerns, and I'm just kind of speaking in a broad sense,
sure,
is that passing legislation, and this is what I've heard from people that, they worry about it, because if you pass legislation that makes it easier for people to die, then how could that potentially be abused?
Right.
However, the legislation has a lot of checks and balances. Like it's not a simple process. You really have to be one of those people that are simply never going to get better, and that there you have a very high probability of suffering towards the end of your life. And so there's like psychological checks, and there's, you can't just take the word of one doctor. You have to go through
it's a
team.
process.
Yeah. Yep.
So like some of those things came up. Trying to think of anything else that popped up that kind of caught me off guard. There wasn't too much from a legislative aspect, but I did like I'm starting to remember now all the things that we went through. I did. I went on with Jack Tomzak at a local radio station. Mitch Berg, John Justice is a big conservative, morning talk show in the Twin Cities. At least I'm not sure if you get it up there in Bemidji. That's not.
No.
But yeah, and then I did a candidate forum, which it was televised, and I don't think I did very well. So
those things are stressful.
Yeah, I was stressing out big time.
It can catch you off guard. Like
I felt so like out of my element and just like stiff, and I wasn't engaging, and I wasn't, my normal self, and I just kind of got caught up in my words, and it felt so uncomfortable, and I was like, man, I wish I could do that again. But I had another chance to do another candidate forum, and it was smaller, and it was in front of people, and I was able to kind of have just conversations then, not just staring at a TV, sitting next to other people in a studio. So I don't know that I like that setting, but sometimes you have to bite the bullet and run into those things head first. But yeah, and then we did. So I think we got some good media coverage. I did an interview with NPR, an interview with the Pioneer Press, which is a local newspaper. So there was, all in all, getting those contacts and being able to kind of put my name out there in front of different people who have the media approach, I think is going to be beneficial as we start to grow a local affiliate.
Right.
So it'll be great.
So do you think that you might do this again?
We'll see. We'll see how well we can start to build up, at least a local affiliate, and, how active people are. I kind of want to gauge people's interest. And my whole thing has been, we need to grow candidates through the process. Right. And so it's, get comfortable sitting down in front of your city council, address them on a regular basis. Right. Work within the community to put your name out there and actually provide things for the community. I mean, that's the things that we need to be doing. So I think one of the things that we've got coming up is we had Blue Cross Blue Shield leave the Egan area. And it's a big, huge building. We're trying to figure out what to do with it now. And I believe there's a liquor distributor that's wanting to come in there. And I think on the 12th, there's a city hearing on whether to approve that for the space or not. And it's right next to a county highway. So, trucking access would be fairly decent, in my opinion. People are worried about the trucks on the county roads or the city roads adding to the traffic. But I think it's an interesting location for a distributor. And it's a Minnesota-owned liquor distributor. So who knows what the benefits will be from a tax base or employee base. I'm not sure. I really have to look into it. But so, I mean, getting involved in things like that and bringing them to people's attention. So want to start writing some things up on what's going on locally to generate the buzz and give our opinion from a libertarian perspective on what's happening within the community. And I think those things are going to really start to just, I don't know, eat away at people as they start to say, become really disaffected with what's going to happen in 2024, because it's going to be chaos, in my opinion.
I actually agree, and I hate to say that because I really don't want it to be, but I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how it's gonna play out, but I was recording the Republican primary, or the Republican debate. I think it's their last debate tonight, so I'll have to go back and watch it and see where what people are saying.
Yeah, and that's an interesting race. Well, I mean, kind of all of it is a little. This just feels different. This going into this is different, because with and I gotta right off the bat, I'm not paying attention. Like I just am not. I'm so wrapped up in what the Libertarian Party is doing. I don't really have the emotional capacity to be taking on, like, paying attention to other political parties. Like, this is enough right now.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
And but watching or just the little bits I hear on the radio, that kind of stuff, like the Republican primary, like Trump is still running, and he's looking at, like, I mean, isn't he going to prison? I mean,
that's the thing.
I don't know. Is he? Does anybody know?
No, I mean, I don't think the one case that I think he has gone through was a civil case, so I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention to that, but all these indictments and all the lawsuits and everything are kind of planned to take place in the spring of next year anyway. So who knows how that's going to affect his campaigning and all that stuff. But even if somebody said if he wins, they're basically going to stay the sentence until his term is over anyway. It's going to be unprecedented, however it plays
out. One thing I've realized with the amount of time that we've had a Trump president, or Trump has been in politics, is that everything, there was what you thought was going to happen and then what actually happened, which were two totally different things. Yep. So I'm kind of like, I mean, that's what they say, but this is the other wild card is RFK,
right?
Who's since broken away from the Democrats and is running as an independent. And how is that going to affect the politics? I mean, I feel like he's got the name, the background, the family, the money, to where he's not being controlled. That's how I kind of view it. And I don't know, maybe he is. Maybe I'm just misreading this, but like he's another wild card. So
yep. And we have our very own, Minnesota Congressperson Dean Phillips jumping into the race. So
oh my goodness.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, he's concerned about Biden even winning against Trump. So I mean, he said,
well, I mean, that's fair.
Right. So he said in plenty of interviews that we can't, he doesn't think Biden's going to beat Trump. So
that would, anyways,
it's exciting and scary at the same time. That's all I'm going to say about it. So hopefully we get at least a decent candidate to put forward for the Libertarian Party, and go through the ballot access and get them on the ballot.
Yeah. So I think for us, we have 8. Do we have 8 right now that have?
So I know, okay, so there's Chase Oliver, Mike Termat, I know Josh Smith,
Michael Rechtenwald, Lars Mapstead.
I don't know Lars.
Yeah, Lars is another one. I feel like there's more.
Okay.
That's only 5. This could be like a 7 dwarf situation, so can't remember, can never get all 7, but yeah, we have quite a few people, and obviously we're a little different than the Republicans and the Democrats, and there's not primaries, and there's not not nearly as much money going into this
Right.
as
But
they have.
it's necessary to advance politics, at least from a party standpoint, to have,
Oh yeah,
to get the candidate on the ballot is number one, right?
right.
Uh, so, hopefully, I've been kind of out of at least the state party for a little bit, kind of focusing on this race and getting things going. And if you look at if we can just have the number of people that jumped out and helped me get on the ballot, I mean, over 5 days, we collected 850 signatures. And if we need 2,000 over a 6-week time period, I think if we try and focus and get it done in the as quick as possible, the better.
So I think we have more in 6 weeks.
Oh, is it?
I think it's and don't quote me on this because I'm not the expert, but I'm pretty sure it's a few months.
Okay.
And so it's
Yeah.
anyways, we're different.
Don't get into
it. Yeah, we're different. Yeah. But our petitioning window opens at the end of May. But the national convention that even decides who the presidential candidate isn't until the very end of May.
Right.
And so we have to wait until they, we go through that whole process to get a candidate officially nominated before we can start petitioning, because we don't even know whose name to put on the right. ballots or the signature, right. the petitions. And then once that happens, I'm fairly certain we have several months to be able to get the presidential candidate on the ballot.
Okay.
At the same time, though, if we're going to run somebody for Senate, which is also a statewide race, and we depend right. on these statewide races. I'm kind of saying this for whoever's watching, because in case they don't know, because we depend on the statewide races to be able to maintain our party status. So there's minor parties, there's major parties. Right now, we're considered minor party. We have to get at least 1% to be even to maintain our minor party status. And there's a little bit of a benefit to, having some sort of status. Obviously, we want the major party status, but until right. we get that, we at least don't want to lose our minor party status. So you have to gain ballot access by getting at least 1% on a statewide race. President is included in that, but so is the Senate. And then Amy Klobuchar's position is up for re-election this year. So whoever's running for Senate would end up running against Amy Klobuchar. But the goal for us is a little different than a goal for a Republican or a Democrat.
Right.
And our metrics are different.
Our metrics are way different.
Much different. So we need to at least get the 1% to maintain our minor party status. And then, but I mean, if we got 8%, we'd be a major party status and we wouldn't have to do the petitioning anymore. And that's huge, because that is a massive time and money and just resource killer right there. And it really holds you back from being able to, anticipate what you're going to do in the future. Because if you don't overcome petitioning, then your campaign's dead before it started.
Exactly.
So,
that's why I from a infrastructure standpoint, as far as party politics goes, it's good to start looking at how do the affiliates line up and how effective are we in the local areas that we reside in, right? And then ideally, if we can have 10 affiliates collect 200 signatures apiece, then the petitioning isn't as daunting as it used to be.
And 200 signatures is very doable.
It is doable.
That is
doable. So if you can get 5 or 6 people in an affiliate to go out and knock out the signatures, 40 apiece, then hey, we're doing all right as far as getting people on the ballot goes.
Yeah. So then we have had, I was just reading, I got a couple of emails from people that are kind of chomping at the bit and want to help with petitioning. Like, oh, that's great. So hopefully you have that energy in May, because that's when we need it.
I don't know. I'm feeling pretty pretty tired right now.
Well, get through Christmas.
Yeah,
But get through the holidays. The holidays in themselves are just kind of draining also. I mean, like, it's fun. I'm one of those people that listens to Christmas music all year long. Or I would be if my family allowed it. But like, getting past Christmas, it's another one of those, like, you just, okay, it's over, I'm done. Yep. I'm glad that's finished, and put that away, and then move on.
I think it's, that's going to be what gauges how we're doing as a party, right? Is how many people are we going to get out to be participate and volunteer and actually get these things done. We had a great showing. I think 25, 26 people came out to volunteer for my campaign. We put the word out and we just kind of crushed it over 5 days. We need that same mentality and that same determination when we hit these statewide races in the next year. We're probably going to have a couple people running for state house again.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to need some help.
And those are 500.
Yep, those are 500 in 500. The district.
Yep.
So it's not just 500 statewide.
Right. And the state absolutely goes through and makes sure that they are actually in the district.
Yes, they do. So this is, it's going to be an interesting time period over the next at least couple months when we hit the spring and into summer. So that work has got to start, fairly quickly in the next couple months, at least getting the logistics, dialed in. And then when's our state convention?
April 20th.
All right.
420. You should be able to remember that. 420.
I will remember that.
Yeah.
I just harvested my 3 plants.
Oh, nice.
We'll see how I've got to cure them. I've dried them out and I've got to cure them over the next 3 weeks. But yeah.
Yeah, and we get for the state convention, one of the major things that we have to do is decide who's going to be delegates to the national convention.
Right.
And whoever is delegates to the national convention is who will be the votes to pick who the presidential nomination is. So we get 18 in our state this year.
18. All right.
Yep.
Did we have 18 last year?
We did. Yeah, we didn't change it all. Wow. Didn't go up or down.
All right.
So at least we're consistent.
We got to pump up those the membership numbers, right?
Yeah. Yep. We got a lot of things that big goals, big aspirations, and
hopefully my little Senate district affiliate will start to bubble up and we can contribute to those numbers.
Yep.
I think that's my kind of philosophy anyways, kind of rebuild that groundswell.
Mm-hmm.
From the bottom up and just kind of hopefully contribute locally so that we can benefit at a statewide level.
Yeah. Well, we are basically out of time. We're right under our 1 hour mark. So I just wanted to redirect people to lpmn.org if you're interested in looking into our platform, what we stand for, anything, information, where to meet. We have affiliates that are all over the state. So there's a page on our website where you can go and find out where those are meeting at and just show up and meet fellow libertarians. And it is kind of refreshing in those groups to realize that you're not actually strange.
Right.
It's everybody else that's wrong. lpmn.org for membership information. And I just wanted to thank you for being on the podcast this evening, and especially for your time. It's like running for a campaign it's a lot. So
it's the first time I've done it. I'm not going to promise anything going forward, but
that's all we can ask for. Yeah. Complete volunteer force. We would not coerce you at all for in the future. But if you're interested, just
don't hesitate.
don't throw it out quite yet. Just give it a few days, and then we'll think about this again. So
Thanks,
still
Rebecca.
got more politics to do.
Love
So,
it.
all right.
All right.
And then we will see everybody next week.
Yeah.
Same
Thank you
day.
very much.